Hi, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jo Phillips, otherwise known as JoOutLoud, and I appreciate that you're here. Tonight I'm talking with Sarah. She goes by Sarah Wild and Small on social media, and in my opinion, she is very badass. She's doing some really cool things. We tried to have her on Monday. My tech didn't work. Sarah, thanks for joining me tonight instead.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, so you're familiar because we've already done the rigmarole. We've done a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so you're familiar with how this is going to go.
Yeah.
I always start by using the random age generator to find out what age we're going to talk about. So I've got your age in here, and I'm just going to hit play and decide. So we're going to talk about you at 21.
21. Wow.
If you
Oh,
if you've tuned in and you want to talk about you at 21, throw that in the comments section because I don't think any of us want to.
21's a weird age. Yeah. Oh.
21 21 is a weird age. So let's jump in. Where were you when you were 21?
I was probably going through one of the hardest times of my life. Um, just a huge transition period for me. Um, so I think I'm trying to think if it's when I started 21 or mid. It was pretty much like a midway through. Um, was just finishing a long-term relationship, was not happy in the job that I was in. I was just working, like I was working like three jobs at the time, so I was barely even like awake half the time at 21, but I was also 21, so I was like had all the energy in the world, thought the world was my oyster. Um, and I could do pretty much anything at that time, but sometimes it's not really a big without the support that you need. Um, I think that's the one thing I learned at 21
Mm-hmm.
was that you really do need support and good people on your side to help you through difficult situations. I feel like we're getting real deep, real heavy.
Yeah.
21.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
just jumped right on in there.
at 21, I definitely Um, I was able to go to the States where my cousins live, so that was cool. So I got to go to some really fancy places at 21 in Los Angeles, so that was nice. Got to listen to some good music. Um, but yeah, I just adventuresome. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but I think 21 definitely is like a huge, like I said, transition period. Like you've already had a couple years of depending on what province you're in, being legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to go to a bar or a club, or I mean, no one's doing that right now, but um,
It's a whole different. Yeah.
whole different turning 18 this year for sure.
So
Um,
where were you? What city were you living in?
I was in Calgary at the time,
Okay.
um, but that's when I kind of started that whole travel bug. Was at
Mm-hmm.
21. Um, so I kind of decided that I was going to pursue maybe just going to different places.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. I got to go to, like I said, I got to do Los Angeles. I got to go on road trips with my cousins, all throughout the States, which was nice. But yeah, I was pretty much in Calgary at the time, which was nice. It's a big city,
Mm-hmm.
lots to do, lots of job opportunities. So that was really good. Yeah.
So you were working three jobs at the beginning, and then did you just chucked it and went to the States to road trip?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I was like, I'm gonna not do this now. Um, like I said, it takes one event, right, to kind of just
Mhm.
change where you're at. And that was it for me. And I just did
Yeah.
that, just changed. I think it was like probably between like 21 to like maybe 22 where that huge transition period just started. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else at 21.
What did you, when you were 21, were you doing what you had hoped you would do when you were 17?
That's what's super interesting. I was very fortunate from a young age to, I was that girl that had tea parties and had everyone over to have face masks and all that stuff. And I was like really, really into like nail polish. So growing up, I kind of like fed into that. And back to the conversation of being in homeschooled, I actually was able to do an entire year of aesthetics. So I
Mm.
got to go to salons and spas and I got to interview with them and be like, this is what I want to do. Like at 13, I was in a volunteer position, which I was able to work with like nail polishes. It was like a Beauty Depot, I believe it was. So it really fed this urge to be an esthetician. So as soon as I was 18, out of high school, I was like, I'm going to aesthetic school. So I did that for a year, and then I got a job right away. Very fortunate, straight out of school, and I was doing aesthetics. So for me, I was still helping people, but in a really interesting sense. Because when you're doing someone's nails, you're sitting across from a table for at least an hour. So they're going to tell you
Mhm.
all of their life stories, or they're just not going to say anything, right? So it's really
Yep.
trying to grab those conversations and even have a conversation like you and I are having today. And it's like you're also physically touching someone. So
Mhm.
for me, that's what I always wanted to do. And I was super fortunate at 21 to be able to do that and to feed that aspect of helping people, being an environment where I got to work with some really amazing people. And yeah, and like I said, 3 jobs. I think at that point, I was in aesthetics. I was also running my own cleaning business. And I think I was working at the smoothie bar at the gym.
Oh.
There was there was a lot going on at 21.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. I think
Mm,
one of my closest friends is a hairstylist, and
nice.
the she is probably the most impactful person I know, because of the stories she hears, the empathy she has, the connection she has. Like if she can connect
Yeah.
almost anyone that needs connection in whatever way they need. So I really don't like when people discount the value of that job because it's so much more than what it appears.
Yeah,
What you were
definitely.
saying, a human
Yeah,
connection piece.
for sure. And it is like one of those things too where if you have like for myself, like being in social work, like being a social worker, I'm not usually going to physically touch someone. I'm just going to be
Mhm.
there for them. Um, so you're literally just in there giving someone a facial and you're taking on their day. You're taking on what
Mhm.
they are giving you, right? In that room, in that space. And sometimes it's usually just the two of you. So it's a really, and same with massage therapy too, like someone might be not saying something to you, but I have had a moment where doing a facial and all of a sudden someone just starts crying. And it's
No.
like, okay, you needed that then. You needed that time to just
Mhm.
be by yourself and just let it out. And you needed a safe space to do that. Um, so that's why, like a lot of my friends, my adult friends now, I connected with them so well being estheticians is because we are those caring, giving people. Um, and we would just like kind of hang out at the end of the day and just not say anything because we're
Mhm.
like so drained, right?
Right. Because
Um,
you give so much of yourself without, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So being 21 and having even those thoughts, I think was really kind of ahead of my game.
Mhm.
Um, just in terms that I don't know a lot of 21-year-olds that realize that someone that they're indirectly helping or indirectly being with each day, or a client that comes back to you every 2 weeks, you're actually helping that person because they can talk, they can be who they want to be in that situation.
Mhm.
Um, And yeah, I think it's the same like with my hairstylist too. I always go there and I'm like, okay, this is what happened. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you.
Like, because they're the person you trust, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, it's being in the chair is just such an awesome experience when it's somebody you can really trust,
yeah,
which is so
definitely.
cool. Um, did who you imagine yourself to be align with who you were when you were 21?
Um, I mean, at 21 as well, like I said, I had a lot on my shoulders. So at 21, I probably wasn't the person specifically I wanted to be. Um, was in a relationship that wasn't necessarily the best thing for me. Um, got into that relationship at a very young age, and it did seem to kind of consume a lot of who I was,
Mm-hmm.
which can be really hard because you so badly want to be in a relationship, you want things to work out, you're an adult per se,
Mm-hmm.
right? And people are
Yeah.
looking at you to provide sustainability for the rest of your life at that point. It's like you're not 18 anymore, you can't stay at mom's house, like you got to do your thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um so I think looking back at it, I didn't like the person that I was, to be fair. I
Mm-hmm.
was too busy. I didn't take any time for myself. I pushed so hard and did so many things that I was just stretched way too thin. Um, but I mean, 15-year-old me would have been like, oh, you're doing great, you know? Like you did what you wanted to do. You did aesthetic school. You have money. You have your own place. Like, isn't this what you wanted? But like I said, going back to like that kind of one change or that one thing that can happen to you just, changes
Mm-hmm.
the direction that you're going. And that's okay. That's totally fine. I think that we figure out who we are every day.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, to answer your question, at 15, I would have said, yeah, that's who I want to be. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, it it wasn't a good place that I was in, even though had all
Yeah.
these different things.
When you look at from the outside, it looked like exactly the life a 21-year-old would want,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like the life that a 21-year-old would want, or you as a 21-year-old.
Yeah,
And so then you started looking for visas.
pretty much.
Did you, this is a hard question, but did you love yourself at 21?
Um, I think I did a lot of things where I thought I did. Um, like I exercised quite frequently. I took care of myself. Like I said, I had my own business. I was successful. I was doing so many different things. But I don't really think I had that time or even extra hour in my day to self reflect and kind of
Mm,
be who are you? A huge thing for me is journaling. So, like I love to write. So even from, I think I have one from like 17 to about that period. And it's funny how you kind of go back and read those moments and then it just kind of drops off actually through like, I think
mhm,
between like maybe like 19 to about that aha moment at like 21 where there's not much going on there. And it's like, well, I used to self reflect and do all these things, and now I just don't because I'm too busy. So,
mhm,
how can I be loving myself, but not doing those self care practices that I was used to? Does that make sense?
mhm. Yeah, absolutely it does.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that just goes back to that alignment part, right? Like did the two line up and they weren't.
Yeah.
I had a very similar path, actually. Met somebody young. We didn't break up. We ended up getting married when I was 22. I should have broken up. I eventually did. But I used to journal, and I stopped journaling around that period of time because I didn't want to acknowledge what was going on. And I have a need for truth. And so to write it down would make it true. And so I just didn't.
Yeah.
And do you feel like maybe some of that was going on at that
Oh yeah, 100%.
point? Yeah.
100%. Was in a lot of denial in many ways, and was just trying to make things work. Um, so yeah, I think that's interesting. You had a similar experience where it's if you journal or you write or you have those self-care practices, they just drop off. I mean,
Hmm.
for some people, it's if you get into a relationship or you have a friendship or something that's, or job even, that's taking your focus away from yourself, you could stop working out. You could stop eating
Hmm.
properly. You could stop getting enough sleep, right? Like we have self care in so many different ways that we don't even realize.
Hmm.
Um, so I think in any situation, it's good to know yourself, and it's really hard. And it's,
Hmm.
like at 21 to tell me, oh, know yourself, I'd be like, I know myself. What do you mean? I'm 21. I can go to the States. I
I
can
know
go to
everything
Vegas. I can do
already.
all these fun things. What do you mean? Right.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, it's one of those things where I would have just like kind of shook myself and been like, hey, you need to get back to you and
Hmm.
whatever way you see necessary. Um, like there was really no reason for me to be working that much, right? Like
Hmm.
it really wasn't. I just
Yeah.
had that drive and was just trying to find the missing piece, and I
Hmm.
couldn't find it and I didn't know where it was.
And drive is a challenge.
Hmm.
It's a challenge that you'll probably have to deal with throughout your life
Yeah,
in making decisions and
yeah,
turning things down and choosing things and all of that, right? Like
yeah,
it's just figuring out where that drive is supposed to take you.
yeah,
I think that for me, when I lose those habits, when I notice, okay, I haven't worked out in a week, those are warning signs to me.
yeah,
But it took me a while to learn that.
yeah,
And it sounds like that's what you're saying too, is now you
totally.
know if I stop doing these things, I need to be concerned for
Yeah.
that alignment piece.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And there's even like those weeks where you look back, and like I said, for me, it would be journaling. Like maybe for someone, it would be like a workout book or something that they have to look back on.
Mhm.
And I'm like, wow, I wrote 50 times that week. Was I okay? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? And like, some of them are happy, some of them are sad, some of them,
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like, at least I was aware of my emotions
Mhm.
and what was going on, whether it was good
Mhm.
or bad. I think is super, super important for sure.
What was your biggest dream when you were 21?
Definitely that traveling piece. Ever since I was young, I had the dream to move to Hawaii, which was instilled by my mom. She lived there off and on for 6 years when she was about probably that same age, like 21 to I think 27 or something like that. Um, and my dad as well lived abroad when he was 18. So I think just like even those stories of being like when I was a kid, having those instilled in me and being like, oh, you got to do these fun adventures and go overseas. Um, like we got to go to Hawaii. We were very, very lucky. We would go, my mom did conferences there. So we'd go every year for probably about 6 years. So I was super, super fortunate at a young age. I don't take any of that for granted. I know how lucky I was to be able to do that. But something about the lifestyle and the ocean and being there just was so comforting to me. And like I said, maybe that's, I mean, now that I'm learning about like developmental psychology and stuff, I'm like, was this because my mom did this? So it still to me as a kid, wasn't it? But yeah, so just being there was always a dream of mine. Um, so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna save up some money. I'm gonna go there. It's gonna be awesome." But then I realized it's the States. It's very hard
Right.
for a young person to get a visa to work in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then plus the relationship that I was in, it just kind of took like a back seat to what I actually wanted to do. Um, Sorry, what was the original question?
What was your biggest dream?
Mm,
And yeah, travel was your.
yeah, that definitely was on my bucket list for sure. Was moving either abroad or like to Hawaii was the dream, but definitely living abroad. Um,
Mhm.
so I was trying to save up. I was going to do that, and then I was able to spend a bit of time with my cousins off and on, traveling to the States and back, which is a good way to kind of feed that ocean aspect for myself. Um, and
Mhm.
um, so I did that, and then I got to travel throughout the States, but then it kind of just, I did a road trip from Calgary to Montana, Utah, Vegas, California, Oregon, Vancouver, and back. So it was a huge road trip. But then after that, I was just like,
Wow.
done. I'm traveling. This is what I love, like seeing new places and like people with different accents. I was like, this is so cool. Like, I want to do this all the time. Um, so then, if you fast forward to, oh gosh, time goes by so fast, doesn't it? I want to say 23 is when I got my visa for Australia. Um, I want to say I was 23, yeah. And then, so when I did that, I was there for a year. So I actually got to fulfill a portion of my dream and live abroad. So very, very fortunate to do that. But that was because the relationship that I had in my aesthetics career, one of my very good friends now is an Australian citizen. And when she decided to go back, I went with her.
Mm.
So that was really, really cool. So her and I got to live together and spend some time in a different culture and the other side of the world. So that was really fun. But um, yeah, didn't get to live in Hawaii. Still thinking about it.
There's still time, maybe. It's still the States, and I think
It's
it's
still the
harder to get
States.
there now.
Yeah, that's really funny. I was actually just listening to a conversation the other day about how they were talking about Hawaii, how it should just be separate because it's not really states because they have their own like they have their own culture, they have their own like different way of like speaking and
Mhm.
it's just and I'm like, yeah, Hawaii's cool. I don't, you know, they
Yeah,
should be their own place. They
they
should do
should
their
join
own thing.
Canada.
And it's also like they're so separate from the states. They're like a
Mhm.
completely separate entity.
Yeah,
But there's also
still
beauty.
someday.
Yeah.
So would you, that would still be categorized, like if you today at 25, what would you say your biggest dream is? Like you're like, holy man, would that be awesome if I could actually do that?
Um, See, it's really funny how now I conceptualize things where it's not that I don't have big dreams. I just know that life can change at any point, any time, and it's good to have those visions. It's good to have those goals, but also know that life's going to intervene in any way it wants. And then you're just going to have to roll with the punches, right? Um, so, yeah, I guess you could say, like, I have so many dreams.
See, that's where you're so awesome, Sarah, because like
Mm,
I like you're so young to understand and know that and just
mm,
be cool with it.
yeah,
But your experiences frame you, right?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so like if somebody asked me that at 45, what's your
Mm,
biggest dream? I'd be like, I'm just gonna go for every single thing that comes my way.
yeah,
Like,
totally.
why would I
100%.
limit myself, right?
Yeah.
And again, like it sounds like you and I have so much synergy, but it sounds like that's like what you're saying is like whatever comes my way, I'm gonna grab that.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, opportunities comes in many different forms. Like I said, I never thought I was going to be in social work. But the opportunity presented itself in the form of maybe getting a visa to go back to Australia or to go to the
Mhm.
UK. And then when I was living in Red Deer, which would have been almost a year ago now, I got the opportunity to work with the organization that I do. And it was honestly, for Red Deer College, you have to get 100 hours to even apply for the social work program
Mhm.
within your within kind of like the social work wheelhouse kind of. So when I was volunteering my time, I started to kind of get more into the Indigenous community, and I was kind of starting to learn more about my Métis history and who I was. So I think for me, just kind of even learning those different things, I was like, well, now this is a whole taking on a whole new meaning of social work. This is taking on a whole new meaning of what I want to do, who I want to be,
Mhm.
um, which is when came into play Sarah Wild and Small, because I didn't have a traditional name when I started this kind of adventure last year. And through this process, I was gifted this name by my aunt. And the the funny story is, she said she was describing to someone who I was, and then she says, she goes, "Do you know Sarah?" And she goes, "Oh, I don't know Sarah." And she says, "Well, you would know her because she's not Sarah tall and boring. She's Sarah wild and small." And she said, "I thought about it for a bit and was like, yeah, you are Sarah Wild and Small." And I was like, is this my name? Do I
Yeah.
get actual like gifted with a name? I was super, super honored to have that. Super honored. So,
And it's such a great name. Like, it's
oh,
just so great.
yeah.
Um, so let's go in that direction then.
Hmm.
So now you work with Urban Aboriginal Voices Society,
Yes.
and you're going to school for social work. You're in your first year.
Yeah.
Um, and and your job essentially is to help Indigenous youth find their voice.
Hmm. Yeah,
Can you talk about
definitely.
that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So my position would be considered an online youth worker. So I help connect our traditions in our community and also help with that mental health piece because it's so, so important, especially right now,
Mhm.
for kids to know that they have the resources in their community. They have people who are understanding their traditions, and um, just that we're there for them in this time of uncertain times. And I always hear that word and go, well, yeah, uncertain times. It's people keep saying they're uncertain times. It's like, well, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in a week. We don't know what's going to happen in a month. We don't even know what's going to happen in a year. So
Mhm.
coming back to that piece where it's like taking things as they come is our best avenue right now, but also supporting each other and knowing that there's those resources for them. There's people out there that are going through the same things. And um, I think my Métis traditions in history has really helped me find a balance through all of this chaos, um,
Mhm.
and just reconnected me in a super interesting way to my community, and has made me feel like I can give in and be helpful, right? That's,
Mhm.
I always say, like, if I can make a difference in one person's life, that's all I need, you know? If I can help one kid through a struggle or through, even like the highs and the lows. Like, through my page, I love to highlight our youth and show what these awesome kids are doing, because it's really amazing, especially right
Mhm.
now. It's like you're still, out there like doing your dances, and you're still out there being an activist in the community. So it's really, really, it's a great position for me to be in. Again, one of those like giving things, because I love to help and I love to be there and support. So
Mhm.
through this community, I can do that, which is awesome.
I've really seen on TikTok, especially, just this
Mm,
amplification of
yep.
Indigenous youth
Yeah.
and their voices. I love Indigenous youth TikTok
Yeah.
because they just really have. I feel like finally have found a place where they can come together and just really just like show us who they are
Yeah.
and tap in, like, to just offer to us some storytelling. um, I can't imagine what it must be like right now for Indigenous kids, given that their challenges are different. Like when the lockdown happened, like we'll say, like the kids in Masquachese don't
Hmm.
have the same access to internet, like just simple things,
Right.
right? So they lose their connection to each other, they lose
Yeah.
their online connection.
Yep.
And then at the same time, the Black Lives Matter movement, which
Hmm.
is a BIPOC, it includes Indigenous,
Yep.
is such a huge movement, and and so vocal on all sides. I can't imagine the mental health support that they would need and possibly wouldn't have access to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has that's been a piece of what you're working
Yeah.
toward, or that's
Totally. 100%. I think a big part of that is exactly what you're saying is they might not have that access. And that's something that I've struggled with trying to figure out what I can do so they do have that in one way or another. So
mhm,
through my page, I know that each interview that I do or each post that I make is that accessibility piece at any point in time. So if that kid does have 20 minutes of screen time because they're in a home or they're, just quickly got their mom's phone or whatever they can do, or they're at school,
mhm,
um, and they pop on that resource and they say, oh, this is a really cool interview with an elder. Where is this from? It's kind of that piece where it's almost like this storytelling aspect where I just want it to be there for them whenever they find it.
mm,
Because kids are busy too, right? Like they're doing school,
mhm,
they're hanging out with their friends. Like it's really hard to get them engaged in a community meeting or
mhm,
a you know online youth group or something like that. And that's the hard part that I found was that we can make all these meetings and we can talk about what's great for kids, but to actually get them engaged is a whole nother aspect, right? Because they might
yep,
not even think it's cool. They might see like
mhm,
one of my posts and go, oh, well, that's not very fun, why would I be involved in that? And it's like, okay, well, tell me what you want then. And that's just it, like giving these youth the opportunity to talk and to have their voice and just say what they need to be heard is a huge piece
mhm.
of what I'm doing.
Jeff LaRouge, he's in our comment section. He's a teacher at a school in
Yeah.
Red
Hi,
Deer.
Jeff.
He says, I'd love to hear more about traditions. We in school are trying to reconcile and honor the traditions, but the students themselves have lost some connection to those traditions.
Hmm.
So do you have anything to offer to him on,
Hmm.
I think like a lot of us would like to be learning how we can support them
Yeah.
and to help you help them.
Yeah.
So,
For sure. I think that for me, through this as well, I've been learning traditions. And I feel like being open to any version of our traditions is super great. Because even through this project, I've had the opportunity to talk to a group in Ontario, as well as a group here in BC. And everyone kind of has those different aspects of a smudge or a sweat lodge or even just the teachings itself um, are very, very different. I think for me, the biggest thing that I have kind of taken on learning is my smudging. And I was actually gifted, so gratefully, I got home last night to my own smudge kit. So I'm very honored to have that. So that gives me the ability to, whether it's in person or a Zoom call, to kind of set the stage for a meeting. And I can make a blessing or ask whoever is more the eldership within the room to make a blessing and offer that smudge to whoever wants to participate. And that's just it too, right? I know when I've been in the schools and done that, some of the kids say, well, I don't smudge. We don't smudge in our house.
Mhm.
Okay, you don't have to participate, right? And it's just listening and honoring what the Indigenous youth also practice, because like I said, it varies from family to family. It does vary across the country with how people see their own practices. Um, but for me, definitely learning the smudge for sure. Um, and talking to my elders is one of the biggest pieces for sure. Just listening to their stories. Sometimes they're really funny, and sometimes I'm like, it's just so great to sit down and speak with them. And I think for myself, for a tradition, would honestly just be talking with them because I know how knowledgeable they are. I know their stories and the things that they've been through, and what they share and pass on to me is what is most meaningful to me about my history. Um, but I'm still learning, and even with my social work practice, we're learning some super interesting things. Um, yeah, Jeff says he participates in. Yeah, definitely. Um, I was the same way, Jeff. I was the same way um, about leading a smudge. I don't. Can they hear the or read the
Yeah,
comments? Yeah.
he can hear you. And yeah, so Jeff just said, if you can't see in the comment section, Jeff said he's participated in smudging, but he's not comfortable leading it himself. I think, like, because I have a daughter, like I said, my kids are Métis, and they're just beginning to investigate their heritage. And one of my daughters has really leaned into the smudging. And so, Jeff, I would say that while you may not have a large group of students who are connected with their traditions, it's very likely you have one. And so if you can just ask, you probably have one who is comfortable with leading the smudging. And it's more honoring their heritage when you aren't the one doing it, but giving them the space to do it. Uh, I think is the space and the acceptance and the honoring of it is where you could possibly lean into.
Yeah, definitely.
How would somebody connect with elders?
So through me, honestly, like if anyone wants to connect with an elder, I am the advocate for that 100%. Um, doesn't matter what community you're in, I can make those connections and reach out and build those bridges. And that's, again, one of those things that I love to do is facilitate that because I know how important it is for me to connect with an elder. So if anyone wants to speak with an elder, um, usually there is kind of like that asking aspect. So I would present them with protocol, which would
Mhm.
be like a tobacco tie, and just say, hey, I have someone that would like to speak with you. It's a youth. Is this possible? And they'll just let me know, yes or no, right? Um, but it's always just giving that asking piece and connecting with that elder. But it sometimes it is right. Like I have a lot of people that do ask me, like, how can I reach out to an elder? How can I get that support? Um, Sometimes right now with Zoom, it's possible, right, to even do it virtually. Sometimes if you want to be in the community, we can make those connections too. It really just depends on what it is and where it is. And yeah, it's a little tricky with COVID right now, but if anyone wants to kind of anyone wants to reach out virtually, that's totally an option, or even by phone, right? Um, because it's awesome to sometimes just chat with an elder. I have my lovely elder Rosina that I call, and it's just like her and I used to be together when we were. I also helped out at the Elders Lounge at the Golden Circle, so that was awesome. So we got to bead and we got to have snacks and just hang out back in November, and it was great. It was great just to sit with them and to talk. So I can definitely provide those connections for sure.
All right. So Jeff, if you want to connect with Sarah, then she's the one that'll hook you up there. One thing that I've been learning, because I've just been doing a lot of work on what I call undoing my white supremacy, but also really looking at the culture that we live in and require other people to live in. And so one thing that we can do is kind of flip it on its side sometimes, where maybe your classroom isn't set up to meet the needs of a white society. Maybe your classroom is set up to meet the needs of an Indigenous society, and the white kids can come in and have to live within that system for a day. Or, like ideally it's a blend for the rest of your life, but just kind of flipping it on the side where at least for a day, a week, a month, they get to live within their culture and we're the ones that have to adapt.
Mhm.
So there are things that you could be doing. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all about education. It's all about awareness. It's all about just taking a step back from yourself and being put yourself in that person's shoes and just, going, maybe this person is going through a struggle, or maybe I don't understand this person. Maybe our society has put these norms on people. Like a super interesting thing I heard was I once heard a girl say something about a smudge and the fact that it smells like maybe like a marijuana smoke, so that's why she doesn't want to participate in it. And I totally get that, because if someone's stereotyping you and you smell like that,
Mm-hmm.
you're instantly going to be called out for it. And it's like, that's not what I was doing. I was participating in something from my traditions, my culture. But we're so quick to judge, and we're so quick to just make those assumptions based on someone's like race, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it just comes down to educating ourselves and educating others. And like you said, that's an awesome part of the kind of Black Lives Matter as well as Indigenous Lives Matter movement, is we're getting all of these social media accounts that are now pushing the different, they're just pushing the limits and saying, think outside the box, like think differently about these cultures and these people. Because why does one person specifically matter more than another? We should all be in
Mm-hmm.
this together, and we should all be educated to know the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think for Indigenous youth, I just say tell your story, be proud of where you're from, and if people don't get it, they're not going to get it because they don't want to get it. They don't want to understand. So
Mm-hmm.
don't spend those times, don't spend your personal energy feeling bad about who you are and what you represent. Um, just shine your light, and whoever is going to follow you are the people that understand and the people that get you, and are the probably the other people that are going to build you up
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
And when someone offers help, grab on.
Totally.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Sarah, I'm so glad that we have a chance to talk.
Me
Is there
too.
anything that we haven't covered that you just want to make sure is said?
I mean, we talked about a lot of things, right? Being 21, we all know that was a crazy time. Um, I just, yeah, I just really want youth to know that there's a lot of people in the community that are here for you. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people that just can listen or just be a friend, and you're not alone. These resources are here for you, and I'm here for you, whether it's a quick like on your post or a repost, whatever you need, um, can provide that support within the community for sure. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity to speak with you today. Very, very happy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely want to connect with you in the future. And oh, my
Hmm.
cat's gonna jump in here. Sorry if you see cat butt. Somebody opened the basement door. But I definitely would like to connect with you because I think
Hmm.
that we can probably get some really cool things done.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm so glad we made this happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having
And
me.
yeah, so that's Sarah Wild and Small. That you're on Facebook and Instagram.
Just the Instagram for the Wild and
Okay,
Small, but Urban Aboriginal Voices
good.
is connected within all the Facebook and Instagrams as well. So,
All right. So you can find her in either of those places. And obviously, somebody who cares and will help you in whatever way you need help. And if you know of any kids that should be connected with Sarah, please do send them her way. Um, and let's see what kind of change we can make happen. All right.
all
Thank you
right.
so much, Sarah. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
joining me.
I appreciate it.